go quickly. And I don't need to go through all those comments.
Yeah, because there's a lot of detail on each of the slides.
Yeah.
Chris, do you want to send me to the interpretation channel?
Sure.
Thank you.
And I did just give co-host permissions to the Spanish recording channel or the user again. So you should be able to hit record.
Yes, I'm all set, Chris. You
Okay.
got me recording right, so I'm all set for that.
Oh, perfect. Okay. And then Catherine, I'm just going to start off with a hello, welcome, and then the translation or the interpretation announcement.
Oh, you're going to do the interpretation announcement? Okay.
And then
I'll take
just
it.
do a quick overview of some updates to the meeting. So the November 17th meeting date, and then we'll be moving the meeting invite to my calendar, and we'll be extending the time to 90 minutes. So after that is when we'll jump into the agenda.
Okay.
Okay. All right. And with that, I'll start.
Okay, Chris,
the
just so
recording is
you know, I'm
started.
going to jump over to Teams real quick. Somebody joined over there.
I saw that. Okay.
Okay, I'll take care of that.
Okay. Thank you.
From this
All right. And I will start letting folks in.
And tell me when you want me to move the slides then. So you want to stay on this main one, Chris, for a little bit?
Yep.
Okay.
And is the next slide just the agenda?
No,
the
we
next
have
slide's
the
the
interpretation and then the agenda.
Okay. Okay. All right. Started meeting everyone. Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Can you give folks a couple more
Nice
minutes
to
to kind of
see
join
you.
in? Mark's here.
Did it.
Good. Looks like we've got a lot of folks joining.
Hi, everybody. We're just waiting a few minutes so other people can join. We'll be starting in another minute or two. So, Chris, should we go ahead and get started?
Yeah. Looks like some other folks are kind of over on the Teams channel, but Rebecca's over there. So we should have some people joining. But just to get started, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day and your evening to be here and attend the monthly CAG meeting for the Washington area. As a reminder, my name is Chris Callanan. I'm the new community engagement specialist for the area. And for this meeting, language interpretation from English to Spanish and vice versa is available. To listen to language interpretation, you'll click the globe icon on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen to access the meeting controls and interpretation menu. And then you'll click the language that you'd like to hear, so Spanish if you're looking for that. And then as a participant joining a language channel, you'll be able to broadcast back to the English language channel and unmute yourself if you'd like to speak. And I'm gonna grab Francisco back into this main channel so that he can. Hi, Francisco.
Buenas noches a todos, bienvenidos a esta reunión. Como todas las reuniones del Departamento del Transporte son bilingües, y para poder aprovechar la interpretación, si por favor puede seleccionar el globito en la parte inferior derecha de su pantalla y escoger el idioma de su preferencia. Okay, Chris.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Francisco. Yep, I'll get you back in that channel. Our agenda for the meeting is up on this slide, but before we kind of launch into the agenda, I have a couple of updates to the meeting, this Washington area meeting, just kind of some administrative updates. So here after this meeting, the meeting invitations will be transferred to my calendar. So you'll be receiving an updated calendar invitation from Outlook coming from my account. We have, based on some previous feedback, based on the meeting times, decided to block out 90 minutes for this Washington area CAG meeting moving forward. It does not mean that we're necessarily always going to take that 90 minutes, but we do have some pretty big topics to discuss, and we want to make sure that we have time to discuss everything that folks want to. So you'll be seeing that meeting invite come through from 6 to 7:30 p.m. moving forward. And then just for the holiday schedule, we are looking ahead in November, and our next scheduled meeting actually falls right on the Thanksgiving holiday. So we want to make sure we're going to move that to the Thursday before that. So it'll be November 17th for our next CAG meeting in November. So with that being said, those kind of administrative items, I'll give it over to Catherine to get our agenda underway.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. Good to see all of you. And I'm so glad you could be with us tonight. It's first snow in Denver, I think, at least as I've experienced it. And so I hope you're keeping warm. We have a robust agenda for this evening. As you can see here, the Healthy River Corridor Study, an update on the Washington Street design and construction, and then some interdepartmental working group updates that several of you have been involved with. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Beth.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So so I wanted to just share with you one of the studies that's underway right now. It's called the Healthy River Corridor Study. And this is just part of a planning effort along the South Platte River, and really look at all our waterways to understand what makes for a healthy river or a healthy waterway in our urban environment. So with that, I just kind of jump into a little bit of what we've been doing. And this is more of an update, but of course, would love to hear from you guys or have you put comments in the chat, of course. So just so you're aware, in 2022, we did the South Platte River Needs Assessment with Stream, Mile High Flood District, and the City and County of Denver. And this was a study to identify the conditions of the river today, the health of the river, the mobility issues associated with the river, the human experience or the land use interface, and then just an overall, where are we seeing our greatest needs? And the larger the circle, the greater the need. So of course, in our neck of the woods up here, we have a lot of human experience or interface with land use, just improvements in how we actually get to and interface and access the river, still remaining river health issues, some mobility issues, and overall, not as great a need as in the southern portions, but still a lot of needs in our area along the river. So we concluded that study. And if you want to go to the next slide, and we moved into this current study, which explores what do we need along our river for it to be a healthy river. And so we started a public engagement process here over the last few weeks. We have concluded all these meetings, but this meeting here tonight with you is sort of one of our outreach opportunities. And so just know that we did talk to a number of folks at Prodigy Coffee, but not a lot of CAG members. So I thought this would be kind of a good chance to get the word out to you on this as well. There is a website. It's there at the bottom. It's a bit.ly. It's SPR Corridor. And so that would be a location you can go to. And maybe we can just put that in the chat as well to really just see where things are and kind of spend a minute with it if you're interested. So let's go forward. Okay, so as usual, you know me, I always have to start with all the history. So we did spend quite a bit of time building a pretty strong, cohesive history of our river. And I think for you guys, this is a lot of interface. You know a lot of this history already. But we talk about the topography and how wide the river really wanted to be. So in the first map, you'll see that dashed red. And under our early pre-1800s, conditions, you can see that the footprint of our riverbed is as wide as a mile wide in some locations and much larger. Well, over the years, as we head into the 1800s and even the early 1900s, the railroads come to town. You guys are familiar with this piece of the story. We build out a lot of industry along our river. We start pulling water from our river through the city ditch that enables a lot of development to the east side of our city. And eventually, as we get into the 1900s, we start bridging over that riverbed, that industrial use, and those railroads. And so rather than engaging with our river, of course, because that wasn't a very pleasant environment, we did a lot of bridging. We built a lot of viaducts and bridges and really sort of put our problems to the side as we grew as a city. So that industrial engine was really important to the growth of our city. Next slide. Next slide, Chair. Okay, so as you know, we get into the 1930s, and unfortunately, because of the conditions along our river and our industry and those low-lying topography areas that often flooded, we find that a lot of that redlining, that disinvestment on the part of the banks and the ability to get loans or improve properties is occurring along that entire river stretch. And so many of the communities suffer because of the disinvestment that we've made and the conditions that we've created along our river corridor. So that's a whole long complex piece of the picture, but that just gives you a sense of it for tonight. And then we came into that area, and because a lot of those homes weren't as expensive or we had not invested in those areas, the highway expansion was an affordable option to buy out homes and put our highways in also along the river, adjacent to our railroads and adjacent to all the industry and background that we had. So over the years, we have really kind of not only impacted our communities, but also impacted our entire river and the condition that we have out there today. In 1965, many of you who I've talked to over the years actually remember this flood. Major flood took out a lot of downtown, Valverde, Globeville in particular, and these conditions were addressed over the following decade through the expansion of our reservoir system. So the Chatfield Reservoir, Bear Creek, these are the facilities we use today to hold and manage the water and the release of water down our river so that we aren't flooding to the same degree that we did at that point. As you guys know, we still do have flood concerns, and there are still points, even within Globeville, near Taxi, where we are building levees and improving our levee to manage potential flood risk. So the risk is still there, but it is much better than it was back in 1960s. And then we get to today, which is really, we are working toward a recovering river, and that is improving the conditions along our river in a lot of different ways. So with that, and you guys will have to let me know if there's questions because I don't see them on the screen right now. But if we go ahead to the next piece, I'll kind of jump into. So a lot of what we've been talking about as we've worked with community and stakeholders is just to understand what is a healthy river. And a healthy river is one that has a lot of green space and it has a lot of vegetation that filters some of the pollutants that roll off from our surroundings and into the river. And it really allows for some of that flood recovery. So in our world along our river today, we have about 4% of our whole river from 52nd down to Inglewood is comprised of this riparian function. Okay, so we have a lot that is not, but if you want to go ahead, but we're working toward this, and part of the Army Corps investment will be dealing with a lot of that. So we decided that there was a lot of goals related to a healthy river. And of course, the first one is the water, to protect Denver's waterways from the pressures of urbanization and recognize the waterway corridors as an asset that safely conveys water. So this was something we shared with the community as we talked about that healthy river. And the comments that you see there are just some of the things people said as we made our way through. And we won't go into a lot of detail since we have a full agenda, but just kind of know those comments at the bottom are things people said along the way. Okay, next slide. And then the next thing that we talked about was the ecology of the river, right? So that gets to some of the rest of that picture, which is preserve, protect, and enhance the diversity of wildlife and ecological health along our waterways. So in this case, we heard about desires for wildlife, fishing, natural landscape, et cetera. So very important aspects of our river corridor. And then if we go to the next slide, what this shows you is that because we're in an urban environment, our river corridor isn't only about the water and the ecology and the riparian space, as critical as that is, it's also about the people and our park and recreation opportunities, our mobility options, how we use that space that it sits there, and our interface with land use. And so one of the key things coming out of this healthy river corridor study is that we need to recognize the range of goals that we as a city have along a river and or a waterway, and also just recognize that in order to achieve some of these goals, we need space. We need to understand that a healthy river has a little space to achieve some of the things that everyone would like to. So, as you look at that, you can see some of those kind of things on the website. But if we go to the next item, this just jumps into some of the final goals that are part of that set of goals for the healthy river. So in addition to water, if you go back one, Sherry, if you, in addition to water and ecology health, there's mobility and recreation. Provide equitable access and space for active and passive recreation, parks and open space and mobility options. So definitely important. And those concerns that you see right there are things that people brought up to us along the way. And then the last one, of course, is land use and development. Enhance Denver's waterways in an equitable and sensitive manner by integrating the built environment and future land use. So really giving some thought to how we build next to our river and how we accommodate all the goals that the city has along our river. So with that, I just want to open it up to any questions. Can you go forward to the next slide? I think that's the last one. Yeah, so we went out, we had all these meetings along the river, and we have been talking with stakeholders. And so just kind of letting you guys know that this study is underway, and this will be informing some of the way we start to think about our river, and that we're always open to additional conversations or opportunities for input on this as we go forward. So with that, maybe that's probably it, Catherine, in terms of slides.
Catherine,
Catherine, I think you're on mute.
Yeah.
I spoke for 5 minutes. No, I didn't. I'm just gonna say, I just was asking silently if you had any questions or comments about any of the components of the study. I know some of you have already been to some of the community engagement meetings or opportunities, and I'm just wondering if there's any other comments or concerns you'd like to share with Beth right now. A quiet group tonight.
Yeah.
Okay. If you have any, or you think of some through the meeting, don't hesitate to use. Oh, there's Nola.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nola. Just to reemphasize, maintain public land uses along the river.
Yeah.
Good to
I
see you,
think
Nola.
That's great. I think some of what we heard as we were out in the community was, don't forget, we all need to be able to access this. Pay attention to that interface. Make sure it's an amenity for everyone. So all really great input, and just know that we're happy to meet or talk further about this. This is an ongoing long effort to improve our river corridor. So.
Okay, so Mark and Karen, Mark, I saw you. I didn't see Karen come in, but Mark and Karen are going to talk to us about the Washington Street design. I think some of you had the opportunity to take a look at that earlier in the month. Mark,
Yes.
do you want to start?
Yeah, so Washington, we have picked up our design. We were able to have our first open house last week, and it was great. It was we had a great time kind of interacting with business owners and residents and property owners along the corridor. I'm actually going to kick it over to Beth to kind of give us an overview, and I'll jump back in and start talking about the technical design pieces.
No problem. Yeah, so we have launched this, everybody, officially with our property owners and with the community. So this is also a big project. So we did do some outreach. We sent postcards, emails, flyered areas. I will say, just as a start to this, if you have other avenues for us to reach out to, we are welcoming ideas, because I think while we had a lot of property owners, we did not have as many community members. So I really like to make sure that we're engaging with everyone. And so please feel free to remind us of places we might be able to get further notices out. So maybe we can go to the next one. I will just share, this is just a short series of slides that just show you what we took to the meeting. So if you weren't able to be there, you'll see this tonight. And also it is now all posted on the Washington Area Program of Projects website. So those materials are out there. And this was just a reminder to you as you came into the meeting that it was all going back to that Washington Street study from 2018 and building on the concepts that were developed there. So the purpose being a preferred cross-section for Washington that is mixed use. It's a destination, it's in proximity to the river with direct connections to National Western and the bridges, and just really an integrated part of the community. So go to the next one. We're focusing right now on character area 3, which is what was referred to in the 2018 study. But for this piece of the effort, which is called design and construction, from 47th to 52nd. So this is really the part of the world that we're in right now. And we're really building off of the cross section you're seeing here, but this is the focus for all of Mark's work that he'll describe to you in more detail. Okay, next. So one of the things we just had to kind of identify for folks is, where have you been? It's been a long time since 2018. And so this is true. And it did take us a while, for sure. But there's been quite a lot of funding initiation underway. That's really the gist of it, is that getting the dollars together and being ready has taken a little time. So there's now Elevate Denver bond money, which came out of the 2018 study, but there's capital improvement project money, Denver urban renewal, tax increment financing money, and of course our federal RAISE grant, which pushes us into being a federal project, and so comes with a whole host of new and exciting things we get to deal with. So we have also started a NEPA process and are doing the historic assessment. We've launching into transportation design, which I will not speak to, and I will let Mark speak to that specifically. And then we're also looking at getting ready, really getting into some of the environmental, stormwater quality, future drainage, and other amenity and improvements along the corridor. So those are all coming. Next. So quickly, in terms of our overall schedule, as I was mentioning, we've started this NEPA process and it should be wrapped up and have approval by 2024. So that's a pretty long process and it continues through 2023. Design and construction are also getting underway, and those as well will continue for quite some time, and they will finalize or wrap up by early 2024, end of 2023 maybe, with construction being ready to hit the ground by 2025. So I'm sure Mark can answer specifics about that as well, but just know that's sort of the time frame. Lots going on in 2023, and then really you won't see it in the ground or moving until 2025. Utility coordination, nope, not quite yet. Utility coordination is also underway, and our outreach efforts will hopefully continue consistently throughout the whole process. So that last little piece that you see down there is a little more specific about our outreach. So what it's showing you is that our first public meeting was in October. That was just last week. We do anticipate coming to this community advisory group every other month for a bigger discussion. To this month, we're here to give you an update, but it's not a full-fledged design discussion. But we will be coming back every other month, and then we'll have some ongoing outreach just as we go forward, and we'll kind of dial in the specifics of that here as we go. We just wrapped up the first meeting last week, so. Okay. Some of the things that came up as we were speaking to the public is we're specifically looking not only for your thoughts on the work that Mark is doing on design, but really some of these really particulars like our streetscape design, the opportunities for maintenance of that streetscape as we go forward, green infrastructure, lighting design, wayfinding, historic interpretation, and even public art. So lots of things that haven't really been addressed to the full degree yet. But that are coming and definitely going to remain topics of conversation as we go forward. All right, with that, I'm happy to turn it back over to Mark.
Yeah,
Can
so
we, Mark,
Or
before
take
we,
questions. Sure.
yeah, Mark, before we start with you, is any questions for Beth and what she described as getting to the point we are tonight? Just want to be sure we give you time. Armando? Go ahead, Armando. You're on mute. Did you want to say something, Armando? Okay, maybe he accidentally raised his hand. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay, Mark, over to you.
yeah, so this is our concept that we unveiled at our open house that we had. This will be posted on our website. If you guys want to examine it in more details, kind of have time to study it and come back and ask questions, we will be here to help answer all of them and work with you through any of those things that we brought up. But so I'll go ahead and just do a brief run through in case you weren't able to attend on kind of what we're looking at design. So this concept should look very similar to the ones if you were part of the study that we wrapped up in 2018. It's a little more refined, but this is where we're picking up design from. So you can kind of see as we work from 47th north, This particular stretch here between 47th and 48th is kind of the tightest space in the corridor between a couple of large older buildings and the railroad. Things get very tight through here. But what you're looking at is the yellow is what we're calling out as sidewalk. The blue is what we're calling out as amenity zone area, potential amenity zone area. And then over on like the far right, which is like the north side, you can see some purple kind of in the street, in between the curb and the street. And that's what parking is. So as you look at this, you kind of see where we have space for amenity zones, we're trying to include it. Where we have space for parking, we're trying to include it. And everywhere we're going to maintain a 10-foot multi-use sidewalk as the bare minimum of what we're trying to do. You'll see the road kind of shifts a little bit as we go from south to north, as we're trying to maintain access to buildings, to businesses, to residences, to really try to limit how much space we're taking and try to ensure that we can keep as many keep all the buildings that we can. Washington won't touch very many. Part of the 51st realignment, we do go through one business, but otherwise Washington, the goal is to keep all buildings there. So we're really trying to minimize the impact we have to community while maintaining the same vision that we've been talking about, maintaining kind of that close community feel as we go through it. So this is the area where the railroad is the tightest, kind of in this stretch here between 47th and 48th. Then if you go to the next slide, kind of from 48th forward, you can kind of see this full cross section. So the full cross section that we're talking about is the same as what was in that 2018 study. You see that at the bottom of the screen, where we kind of have 10-foot sidewalks, 8-foot amenity zones, 8-foot parking on both sides of the street, 1 travel lane each direction with a turn lane as appropriate in the center of the road. And that's all the way across. So really this stretch here between 48th and 51st, we're mostly able to maintain it across the whole thing. And this is kind of, sorry, go back a slide. Yeah. So we're trying to maintain this throughout. And this is the feel, right? I mean, to try to create the trees and that comfortable feel of wanting people to visit. I mean, this is really going to keep a consistent space throughout it. You can kind of see the dashed purple line. It's a little bit harder to see on here, but feel free to go download the image off the website. You can kind of zoom in and get closer on it. That's the right of way. So we are going to have to acquire some right of way through this process. And particularly in this stretch, it'll be mostly on the east side of the road. And then north of 50th, we kind of shift the road again, kind of even split on both sides. None of this is final, right? This is all a concept that we're looking at, starting design from. So we're looking at updating our traffic data, making sure our traffic study is still valid, making sure this is what we need to do, whether we need to go to multi-use, multi-lanes. We're taking a look at all that and really beginning design here in this last month. We've really hit the ground running hard. And then if you want to go to the next slide. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, let's just make sure, because they're complicated maps, Mark, just in case anybody had a comment or a question about any of the sidewalks, amenity zones.
An amenity zone could be a tree lawn, or sorry, what did you say?
Yeah, amenity zone, a tree lawn is easily another name that we call them out. Planter, green space, that's something that we are working towards on. How do we maintain that in the area? So that's one of the things that we're approaching businesses to kind of talk about. How do we maintain this after the project? But it's definitely something we're trying to create and create space for that we can hopefully be able to do.
Okay, Bicycle Colorado.
Hi, sorry, I forgot to change my name. This is Jill Locantore with the Denver Streets Partnership. I was just curious, it sounded like you were planning on 10-foot sidewalks throughout. And years ago, when we were talking to you all about this project, we were saying it would really be ideal to have 12 feet since, even in your diagram there on the screen, it shows the intention is to accommodate both bicyclists and pedestrians. Yeah. And so to truly have a comfortable shared use path, Denver's own standards is 12 feet. So I'm wondering if anywhere on the corridor, it's possible to get to that actual 12-foot width.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. That was actually when we first picked it up. That was one of the first things we did look at is were we able to enact 12? And in a few small places we could, but overall it wasn't going to develop across the whole corridor. And 10-foot uniform made a lot more sense from a kind of transportation perspective and maintaining the multi-use. So our standard is 10 as a minimum, unfortunately. And so, but that is what we are looking at in the area, is a 10-foot multi-use facility.
And Mark, Kyle in the chat is asking, with the city developing 4995, shouldn't you consider a heavier load of traffic because of that new build?
Yeah, so that is something we're looking at. You know, our traffic study we're utilizing was actually helped put on by the National Western Center, and it finalized in 2020. And it actually assumed full build out, and it assumed redevelopment in the area. So we're actually forecasting traffic through 2040. So we actually have a number of cars through 2040, and that's actually what we're utilizing in the area. And we're comparing our old study with new counts that we've done this year. And that's currently where we're at, is evaluating what makes the most sense in the area. So we have we feel pretty good about our number, and we're truthing it out, but we're actually forecasting growth and redevelopment in the area as part of our traffic study for how we're figuring out size and capacity for the roads.
Okay, all right, Mark, I think we can move on.
Cool. So this last segment, you can kind of see the different color is, you know, the 51st Street is going to come through and realign the intersection so that it actually faces each other and it's not offset anymore. That's going to happen about the same time of construction wise as Washington Street. And I'm actually also the project manager for that project as well. So I'm managing both of those. That is working alongside Washington, as it's clearly heavily entwined right here at the intersection. And one of the big changes that we did talk through at our open house is, you know, the 2018 study that we did for Washington did call out kind of taking all those properties on that northwest corner of 51st, and that is not happening. We are pulling our design within those buildings. So what that means for the space between 51st and 52nd kind of still remains to be seen. We are looking at how do we shift the road after those buildings? How do we maintain the 10-foot multi-use facility that will be maintained? And what else do we have room for? How else do we fit in amenity zones? How else do we fit in parking? And potentially one or the other there on the east side of the road. So we're still looking into this area in very heavy detail, trying to figure out exactly how we can bring the community what they want. So we love community feedback. I mean, please let me know what's important to you, right? Let us know what you need. If it's your house, I mean, let me know what you want in front, and we're gonna do our best to accommodate what we can. It's not gonna be able to be the full cross section like it is south of 51st, but we are working on trying to figure out what we can fit in and what makes the most sense for all the residents in that area specifically. Otherwise, I'm open to questions. That's all of Washington in a very brief nutshell, but I'm open to answering any more questions.
Questions or comments? I know some of you were at the public meeting, but I'm just wondering if there's any others? Nola, the old Western Camp Don Juan now is a historic building.
Yeah, so, you know, that restaurant there, Don Juan, that's actually part of that NEPA process. I know it's kind of a vague, part of our design process is evaluating the community for historical impact. And that's what that NEPA kind of process was that Beth talked about. So we are in the process of figuring out what is historic and what is not. But you do see that we are avoiding that building, right? We are trying very hard to avoid that building, largely because even whether it's not historic, I mean, that restaurant's a staple in the area, right? We want this to be around and to be something that supports the community, and that's something that we love to support. So we are looking into whether it's historic or not, but I won't know that for some time yet.
Any other comments? Go ahead,
What
Beth.
does, I guess my main experience with NEPO is with the I-70 project, but I imagine this is a little different.
No, it's the same thing,
no?
right? So we look at air, we look at noise, right? We look at pollution, carbon dioxide. I mean, it's a comprehensive environmental. I mean, even environmental justice, right? What are we doing to the residents of the community? Is there disproportionate impact? It's a really large, all-encompassing type of study, which is why it takes so long. But it's also why we want to start it to help inform our design so that we can work hand in hand. If a building is historic, we don't want to take it down. If it's not, then it could have been open to interpretation, but we're doing our best not to take anything. But those are the types of things that NEPA helps us inform. Are we going to cause too much noise, too much pollution, and how do we resolve that before we get started? That's a large part of what it is.
Does that answer your question, Nola?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions, concerns? Anything to inform Mark? I know he's really anxious to hear from you. Go ahead, Mark.
So I think I just like to jump back in. Was there a question? Sorry, did I miss?
No, I think you're fine.
Okay. So I think we're just gonna share just a couple things on what we did hear from folks, just so you're aware of what, the kinds of conversations that we had. I think these are probably similar to some of the things that go through your mind, but we did hear some about maintaining that historical significance of the corridor. So whether that's the individual buildings, some kind of understanding of the history that it comes with. Strong interest in a landscape buffer and pedestrian scale lighting, which I definitely would agree. We need that buffer, especially with the traffic on Washington. We did sort of get some feedback, but there was a lesser priority on wayfinding or signage. I think we, of course, will want to have some wayfinding and signage, but maybe that was not a high priority, say, compared to the sidewalks or the landscape. So please comment on these comments as we're going through here. Parking. Preference for on-street parking between 51st and 52nd because the neighbors along there. Utilize parking to enhance accessibility, that there's this definite desire for some on-street parking. So we certainly wouldn't be in a position to take that all out, and we're not going that direction. And then if it is going to be parking, think about it as parking with character. So try to make it look nice, feel good, and have sort of that neighborhood character to it. That's really kind of what we heard about those priorities. Let's go to the next one. And then there were a series of questions that we heard over, at least a couple times. And so I just wanted to share those with you. We don't have answers to all of these, but just so you know, this is the kind of thing we're hearing. How would a maintenance district work and what's the cost? So the big answer is don't know yet. But this is something we want to explore as we move forward in this process, because if we're going to make this investment in this main corridor through the community, we want it to maintain it. We want to stay looking nice. We want, if we have, landscape, we want everything to stay great. So let's talk about a maintenance district and how that would work and what it would cost. Will landscape impact visibility when exiting driveways? So I think the short of that is no, we better not. So maybe, that's a question for Mark, but I think, visibility is always high on the traffic engineer's list. So I don't think that we will do any landscaping to minimize visibility or exits. Will 47th Avenue be addressed as part of this project? And Mark, that is one maybe that you might want to jump in on. I know we have heard some things about the intersection at 47th and some of the lane configuration there. So
yeah, so that is actually sitting with our city traffic engineer's office, where they are looking at, are there any quick wins they can do in the short term? As far as will we be rebuilding, I think the thing I hear the most is, will there be a dedicated right-hand turn lane kind of that'll be created where the sidewalk is currently? That will not be part of this project, but it is something that our city traffic engineer's office is currently looking at on what is the demand, and then what can they do in the short term, and how do they program a long-term fix there? So it is currently in their office. This project will not fix that.
Okay. Okay. And then I just want to say there was a comment about in the chat about talk to everyone about the wayfinding and signage. And I agree with you that the truck traffic, when we think wayfinding, sometimes we just think about how to get to places, but it can also be used to redirect traffic, redirect truck traffic out of the community into other locations. And I do think that that is a component of things that'll be addressed as we go forward. Can more stoplights be added as part of this project? Mark, is that one that I don't know.
That actually is a fair question. As we've just picked up our traffic study, I mean, literally just today, I was in a call about 48th, and would that have a traffic light? Would it not? I mean, just today, we're still working through what that looks like. We don't know. And so until we get further along in design, we can't tell you, the concepts where we're starting from, and we will go from there.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. After construction is complete, who's going to maintain the road? Well, I think the road itself, is that maintained by Dottie then, Mark? The actual road?
Yeah. The road will be maintained by Dottie. If you hear any maintenance conversation, it's really about the amenity zone, the treescape, that area, and who's taking care of that. That's really the maintenance conversation.
Yeah. And then the last one is, are there conversations of rezoning after construction? So that has to do with land use. And right now, that is not something that we're talking about with the planning department. There's no broad scale rezoning underway. I think there's a lot of individual property owners, a lot of variety of zoning. Some of it is is an industrial mixed use type of zoning. So it allows for a pretty broad range of uses. And so I think that right now, the answer to that is no, definitely not right now. So it's probably a property by property zoning conversation.
Yep.
Jill has really raised now again the width, and maybe Mark, that's a conversation that you and Jill can have, so that she just wants to be sure that her concern is in before you, and you can talk a little bit more about what the considerations are going to be.
Yeah, happy to set up a meeting. We can chat about it. We can talk through some of the design details. At the end of the day, our standards and the data that we have are what drive our decisions, right? So we are looking at this project holistically from all standpoints, and we're trying to make the best decision we can for the community. But I'm happy to connect with you. We can talk about it. I hear you that 12 feels more comfortable. But yeah, happy to connect with you. We can talk about it.
Is that okay, Jill? Can the two of you connect?
That would be great.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jill.
I also might just I might throw out to Jill, and I know we don't always see you on this CAG meeting, so I'm really glad you're here. But there's another project underway, if by chance you don't know, along the levee. And so they'll be improving the Globeville levee essentially through this entire zone and all the way south along Ringsby. And as part of that levee reconstruction, there will be the new regional trail standard built in along the levee. And so in truth, it's very close to Washington. And one of the things that has, just to sort of complement the area, that'll be a very strong improved regional connection for bikes as well. So some of our initial conversations about bikes on Washington were, all over the place. And that's why we landed at the shared use path. And of course, 12 is better than 10. But just for your information, there will be a significant improvement to the regional trail as well. So
a question by Kyle about who's going to be responsible for clearing the snow on sidewalks.
Well, that's a good question for
so that conversation will be wrapped into part of our maintenance conversation. It's it remains to be seen. It's going to be part of what the community and what some of the community businesses want to do with what's the tree? Sorry, why am I blanking on the name, Beth?
The tree lawn.
Yeah, I mean, so as they look at what it looks like to maintain that, sometimes it includes snow removal, sometimes it doesn't. So it's ongoing conversations. I can't give you an answer today. It's part of what we're still working through.
Someone will clear it. We'll stay on it till we get to some answers.
Okay, Beth, I think we got the questions.
Okay, great. Okay.
So Chris, I think you have some updates for us from the working group.
Yeah, sure, if you can go to that next slide, perfect. Well, for those of you who weren't here at the last meeting, you should have been receiving these kind of regular update emails on some concerns that have been being addressed by Dottie and a couple of the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure and a few other agencies that we're working with. We, a few months back, really received quite a bit of feedback from the community and residents around Globeville about some pretty wide-ranging concerns in the neighborhood. And in order to address them, Dottie really kind of stepped up and decided to form this interdepartmental working group. So working with all departments around the city in order to kind of implement a whole of city response to some of these concerns because of the challenges that they posed in particular. So this group, I've been facilitating it and we've been meeting regularly, and we've been able to deliver on the majority of concerns raised and address them, as well as kind of move forward some more proactive strategies moving forward. So as a reminder, some of the more immediate concerns that we heard from the community is that some city properties, namely that 4995 Washington Street property that used to be an old automotive dealership, that was kind of blighted and wasn't being kept up as much as the community would have liked. So we've been working with the Department of Real Estate to really bring that property into compliance with neighborhood inspections. So we've really looked at removing all of the graffiti from that building. We've patched a lot of the fencing that has been kind of over time just damaged. So all of that fencing has been re-put up to make sure that the integrity of the property is up to standards. And then I've been going regularly on either a weekly or bi-weekly basis to visit the area and just kind of keeping a critical eye out for areas of improvement that I can kind of flag for our internal teams to address. So really looking at illegal dumping, littering, kind of some abandoned property along the 51st and Washington area. So I've been, as concerns have kind of slowed coming in, I've been making those site visits in service of the community, just making sure that Dottie is kind of looking out for how all of that area is being taken care of. An immediate kind of concern that we've heard raised in a variety of areas is for folks who are experiencing homelessness in the area. So we have been working with both the Department of Housing Stability and the Mayor's Office to try to get resources, whether that's outreach resources or encampment mitigation resources out into the Globeville area to make sure that any unauthorized encampments are being resourced and being connected with services where possible. And then really working collaboratively with the Denver Police Department in that district to make sure that we're all communicating around public safety challenges and again, kind of street maintenance, which falls a little bit more in the realm of the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure. So as those kind of immediate concerns of being addressed, we've kind of taken a look towards those proactive management strategies. And it looks like we have a couple of raised hands. So it might be a good place to kind of pause and hear feedback on those immediate concerns that I just went over.
So let's start with Patty and then we'll go to Maria. Go ahead, Patty. Nope. Henry.
You are on mute.
It's actually Joe, my wife.
Hi, Joe. Sorry.
Hi, Joe.
But you go by different names.
Not usually. So the fence is not fixed at 4995 Washington, just for the record. So and Platt Farms Park, I just drove through there yesterday, and our property abuts the BNSF water line. And there are homeless camps along our fence line. They cut through the fence and vandalized cars and trucks in there. So there's like 3 in there currently. It's not technically in the park, but it's on city property.
Okay.
Right on the other side, well, maybe it's on BNSF property, but it's right in between the park and our sign. And when I was there yesterday, there's at least 3 homeless camps in there. Pretty decent.
Okay.
I can send you pictures if you want, but
Yeah. Yeah, pictures are always very helpful. And I hear you there. The fencing was kind of an interim solution from what I understand, because that property is being obviously developed here in the next couple of years. So we brought it into compliance with some chain link fence, but I'll be out there tomorrow and I'll make sure to look at those issues that you just raised and follow up on them with you, because that is concerning to hear. So did you have anything else?
No, just the homeless camps in the Platt Farms Park, and I was making a comment. I see maybe to the fence, but
yeah,
Thanks,
okay,
Joe.
that makes sense. Thanks.
all right, thanks.
Chris, you and Joe will connect tomorrow.
Yep, I'll send you an email, Joe.
Thanks, Joe. Hi, Maria.
Hola, buenas noches. Yo tengo una pregunta nada más. Hey, espérate. ¿Han considerado las luces también en el área? Porque en Globio hay áreas muy oscuras como alrededor del parque por la 48, cerca del parque. También en otras áreas, cerca de aquel lado de la 45 también. Entonces, ¿han pensado algo sobre las luces, sobre poner más alumbrado en el área?
Chris?
Can we get that interpreted language access?
I heard it.
Oh, I might not be.
Chris, the question from Maria is whether there's more lighting that can be brought into the area that might be an effective way. And there's some concerns by Maria in terms of different areas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. So yes, that's an area that we're kind of actively in the consideration phase of exploring. So you are not the first person to bring that up, and we're working with our partners with Excel Energy to kind of look at the lighting opportunities in the Globeville area, because that is a very important and kind of a quick way to improve public safety. So yep, we're working on that and should have updates to share more here in the next couple months or so.
And then Chris, Kyle mentioned that there's also an encampment at 4600 Washington under I-70.
Okay, thanks, Kyle. I'll follow up with Matt who's with the mayor's office encampment strategy to make sure that that's on their radar and that they're getting resources out there to address that.
NOLA's an important bike and pet area would be Pearl along the corridor. And any improvements, any information on improvements, and also ask about the bus stop in front of 4995, maybe a temporary bench for the next couple of years or something to improve the bus stop.
That's a great suggestion. I haven't heard specifically about that pedestrian area that you spoke about along Pearl. But I'll, in my site visits, go out there and just take a look and see if there's some improvements that I can see. And I'll follow up with you, Nola, about that. And I'll also kind of reach out to our partners at RTD about that bus stop, because I do think that that would be a great resource for the community, especially over the next couple of years.
Joe, did you have
Chris?
another comment?
I do. So
Okay.
the area Nell is referring to, I'm pretty sure is on Pearl Street, is going to run toward the, I guess, west side of the future 4995 Washington Street.
Okay.
And the connectivity from that potential site into the park, which is south of the railroad tracks around Argo Park. And how do you connect the two? Because there's a fence. BNSA had to build a fence to keep the homeless fighting down and violence. So currently it's blocked because they kind of had to do it to keep them off the railroad tracks. So I think that's what Noah's talking about. If it's not, let me know. So
Okay.
Thanks, Joe. Other comments? Nola, did you have another comment? I wasn't sure I saw you. No, it's the 303 number. I'm sorry.
Yes, me, Armando Payan.
Oh, hi, Armando.
Hey, Armando.
Did you have a
Couple
comment?
things. Yeah, I'd like to see, is anybody from the mayor's office sitting in on this meeting?
Matt was
Not-
unable to attend from the homeless encampment program.
Okay, well, can you let us know in advance if we have somebody from the mayor's office in attendance? Just so we can be prepared, because I'd like to ask some questions directly to the mayor's office in conjunction with this project. So in the future, if there's not going to be somebody there from the mayor's office, you could just give us a heads up. I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely, Armando. I hear you there. Matt was scheduled to attend, and he unfortunately had a personal matter come up today. But he should be at one of our upcoming meetings. So we'll make sure to set aside some time, and I'll make sure to give everyone some notice on the agenda that he's going to attend.
And one last thing, Chris, you didn't respond to my email about residents being able to be engaged in this on the steering committee. You use the word pertinent. Can you expand on that for the here, please?
Yeah, and that kind of reflecting back on that email out, just to bring everybody else into the conversation, I had put in that, this internal working group is really kind of an internal city group of decision makers and kind of technical experts who are really weighing the feasibility of some of the improvements that we're talking about. And we've been working with them and like I mentioned, just really working to make sure that we're able to deliver on, the vast majority of concerns and solutions that are raised by the community. I think a better word for that would have been fairness. I think we want to make sure that our response to some of the concerns that we've heard is really resident centric. We want to make sure that we're able and accessible to every single resident who wants to kind of raise concerns or ideas or solutions to this working group. So, that's really why Rebecca and I have made ourselves available and responsive in that way. And I do apologize that you didn't feel like we had gotten a good response to that email. But another good word for that is
I just feel that as residents, we live and work there every day. You guys don't. So when you're telling me that, sure, you guys got the expertise. I understand. I get all that. I mean, I work at CDOT myself, so I understand transportation, and I get a good feel for that stuff and the shortfalls in terms of transportation. But from a resident standpoint, we're here to try to help. That's our focus here. We're not here to try to negate, point fingers. That's not well, at least that's not my perspective. My perspective is to try to complement and enhance your current staff. And I don't see why that's a problem with you guys. It's just not. Why can't we just sit in on some of those meetings? You're telling us, that you guys have the expertise. Well, fine. I understand. I get all that. But at the same time, that should not be a reason for us to cut us off. Again, we live and work here every day. We see things that you guys don't. And I'll give you an example. I mean, there's a homeless couple. There's a homeless couple right next to 4995 today. Next time I'll take a picture and I'll send it to you in real time. But there's more concerns that we have because again, we live and work in this neighborhood along 4995, all of Washington. I mean, that's a major artery. People use it's almost like another highway coming up and down this corridor here. And all I'm saying is that we as residents, I think we have a lot of valuable input to try to. We're here to bring solutions. We're not here to try to beat you guys up or attack you guys. And that's not our focus. Our focus is to complement, enhance, and to provide some vision to give you a different perspective of what you're planning. I don't think that's wrong. So that's just all I want to say. I mean, I think by you guys not allowing us to actively engage like that and having a discussion to bring positive things to the table, I think that's shortcomings from your staff there. That's, you know, if anybody else wants to jump in and comment on that, please do.
One of the purposes of the CAGs, Armando, is really to do that, is to give you this opportunity, and every comment that you make is very seriously taken. And I think using the CAG allows us to have a number of voices, you know, the 20 or so people who are on this call allows us to hear from everybody. And we hear you saying that, you know, there's we rely on the fact that you have so much information, and that's why these meetings are really scheduled so that we can hear as much as we can. And Chris, in addition to that, along with Rebecca, have added to that by spending time in the community and meeting one-on-ones and finding the best way that we can to get the information, because in no way are we uninterested or negating the input of the community in these really, really important issues. So we're just trying to get better at it, and your comments are well taken and understood. So thank you for voicing your concerns.
Well, it's just, you know, all I'm trying to say is that, you know, we're just trying to compliment it.
Yeah, sure.
And by vision and you know, a fresh look at what you guys might have not considered since you don't live and work here. That's all. I mean, we're just trying to enhance the quality of life for people who do live here every day and provide some meaningful infrastructure for everybody involved here. You know, make this a world-class community.
We value all of your input, and glad that you're here with us tonight to continue to tell us. Joe?
Okay, so following with Armando's comment, the people he's referring to, literally, and there's, you know, actually more than a couple that I saw, but they had an open flame warming themselves the last couple of days, like literally. So just letting you know.
And those are definitely some of the challenges. You know, there's kind of some response that we can coordinate, but if you see open flames, if you see natural gas canisters, I mean, we need you to call 911 immediately if there's that kind of public health, or I'm sorry, public safety issue. And if you can follow up with us, I mean, I will be very, very responsive if I hear from you in that area. And I think that Matt from the mayor's office will also be very, very responsive, because those are issues that we take very seriously.
I think you all have, I know you had Anthony's number. I think, Chris, I think on our next slide, I think your phone number, maybe we show that. So you all should feel free to call Chris whenever you see these instances, because even as you're calling 911, we hope that you can let Chris know about your concerns, because we do care deeply about this community, and we want to be sure that we're offering you every opportunity to reach us. So Chris, I don't know if your phone number is on us. Maybe you put it in the chat. That would be.
Yeah, I'll put it in the chat, and then it's always on the email signatures for the agendas that I'll be sending out. So definitely feel free to give me a call or text if anything ever comes up.
Thank you to everybody who's yeah, thank you, Patty. Call Chris if you have an immediate concern. Don't hesitate to do that.
All right. And kind of in service of spending a little bit more time discussing these more immediate concerns, especially around, you know, encampments, as we extend our meeting times moving forward, we'll be sure to make sure that everybody has time to kind of contribute. In light of everybody's time, I'm wondering, Catherine, if we want to move. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was saying, are you going to move forward, or I know Jim has joined us. Okay.
Yes, Jim.
Hi, everyone. I am the engineer for the Heron Pond project, which is well underway. I'm going to try and steal. Oh, I was going to steal the screen, but I can't. As we all know,
Post.
the Heron Pond project is working east of Emerson on 51st. We're improving that street right now, and we intend to, here we go. All right, everyone's seeing it, okay. So we are improving the street right now. We're gonna try and get this open in the next couple months. And then that connects to the brand new bridge that's not even in Google yet and connects over there. So we've seen an uptick in the number of folks that are trying to access the South Platte River Trail through here. And we just know that when this bridge is open, there'll be more people trying to access it. So the city traffic engineer has kind of asked us to get a safe corridor for pedestrians from Emerson to Washington, largely because of the bus stop there. But just we have seen a lot of folks trying to cut through an active construction site, which obviously we frown upon. We want everyone to be safe. Right through here, it's about 25 feet wide. It's a pretty narrow corridor, so a street wants to be about 12 feet wide. We're not able to get 2 streets and a sidewalk through here, so we're looking at changing this street to a one-way street in the next month or so, and then doing a quick just mill and overlay. They take off the top couple inches and then put a couple inches back, and then we're going to put some pedestals in there to keep the traffic away from bikes and pedestrians just making their way to Washington Street. So we're going to be reaching out to these adjacent business owners and getting their feedback. And we're still in review. It's very rare for the city to do something this quickly. We're wanting everyone to be safe. We don't want to react to someone being hurt, so we're trying to get in front of this. Just letting you all know that this is our intention of making improvement through here. It's not going to be like Broadway south of downtown where there's a post every 8 feet. It's going to be maybe 20, making sure these businesses can still perform and just keep any traffic on a fairly empty road. It's not a heavy corridor. Just keeping them on the north side and putting up a bunch of signage to make sure everyone's safe. I apologize for us being kind of short notice, but we've been looking at it for the last couple months, and we've really just decided to get in front of this, like I said, instead of reacting later. So I just wanted to put it out there. I know we're already over in time. And I am curious, is it now, I'm seeing the chat, is everyone seeing it or no?
I see your screen share.
Okay, good. I was worried. So are there any questions? I never keep that chat open there. Okay. Perfect. Okay. So if you have any questions later, you can reach out to.
Nola wants to know if it's a temporary one way.
It's semi-temporary. Mark's project that he presented on earlier, Washington Street, is going to be adding curb and gutter and sidewalk through here in 3 years or so. So at that point, obviously, then this all goes away. But the intention would be it will stay that way as until we can get this street to the full build out that we would desire. So yeah, we're going to get it done by the end of this year, and it'll be there for really about 3 years. So not quite temporary in my mind. And we can react to if these businesses things aren't working and we need to move something. That's fully our intention too, is to keep these folks operating like they do today.
Any other questions, comments? Okay. I know we've kept you a little bit longer. That's one of the reasons we want to move our meeting to a 90-minute schedule, because I think the issues are becoming a little bit more complicated. We're really hopeful and want to continue to have your input into these. Your feedback has been very important to all of us on each of the issues we talked about tonight. So Leslie, yeah, it sounds like it is semi-temporary, at least for 3 years, as the 51st is being built out. So Chris, did you want to lead us home here?
Yeah, well, just once again, I want to say thank you so much for everyone spending your Thursday evening kind of really getting engaged in the community. And we will definitely be making some more time in meetings moving forward to discuss some of these larger challenges. Our next meeting, as a reminder, is going to be on November 17th. So it's a week prior to our typical monthly meeting schedule. And those updated Outlook calendar invites will be being sent out tomorrow. So keep a lookout for those. And as always, feel free to reach out to me if anything comes up or if there's anything that I can do to support you. And we look forward to seeing you in the next CAG meeting.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.
Bye, everyone.